Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. Now find yourself a seat at their table.
Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast. I'm PJ.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're starting the road to 50.
Yes.
And we're starting the road to 50 episodes, and we're going to be talking about the worst movies we've ever seen. This is volume 1. This will be a series. We're going to have some guests on. We might do worst comic book movies, worst action movies, worst comedies, things like that.
Exactly. There's so many in that library.
But today it's just going to be just some bad movies that we've seen. And trust us, we've seen some shit-tacular movies. So there's plenty to talk about. And I think some of my picks are going to be a little controversial.
Uh-oh.
A little controversial today.
Okay.
But as always, we're going to start with our childhood memory. So do you have a childhood memory of a bad movie you might have seen in theaters?
Yeah. So for, I don't want to say I was a child. It was more like a couple of years ago. This is 2016. Okay, so it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows.
Out of the Shadows. Which one is
That's
Out
the
of the
second
Shadows?
one. Oh, I guess it's the Michael Bay movie.
Okay.
It's the second one. More like Out of My Ass. This movie.
That's the one where they brought in Green Arrow from the TV show to be Casey Jones, and I don't even think he wears a hockey mask.
Yeah, like Bebop and Rocksteady. And
Yeah.
that movie was, I couldn't believe it. I never walked out of a movie. That's the closest I ever did it. I was
Really?
actually with my brother and my friend Sean, who was on the show. They did the Back to the Future episode. And I remember it was so bad that I curled up in a ball on the chair to go to sleep. Like, I got the, yeah.
I didn't hate the first one of that series. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. But the second one was rough. And it shouldn't be that hard to make a Ninja Turtle movie. How we fucking this up?
I don't know.
There's so much to just draw from.
It's.
I didn't like the design of those turtles.
They were ugly. They're so ugly. They're nothing. It's just a mess. I don't even know. I can't remember if even Shredder's even in it. It was so bad. I have no memory of it.
It was. He was and wasn't. It was like Shredder-esque, but I don't remember.
Right, I think Krang's in it.
Yeah.
I just remember it just being terrible. Megan Fox. I don't want to pick on the girl. She's, what could she do with that kind of script?
There was nothing she could do to save that.
I think in the beginning of that film is like...
She's actually the best part of those movies because it gives you something to look at.
Yeah. I think in the beginning she's like walking through not Penn Station, Grand Central Station, and she's like changing her outfit as she's like following someone, and she's like changing her skirt, and but man, I mean I hate all the character. I don't know why they make Donatello like such a dweeb in these films now.
Always
they make
him
these guys like Raph. Everything's to an extreme. I understand you want them to have their characters, but anyway, that movie is just terrible, unbearable.
Yeah, it's
for me,
it's
unbearable.
A tough watch. I can manage through the first one of those, but the second one,
right?
I think honestly, a highlight of that movie was the Bebop and Rocksteady because it was
they fight like in an army tank.
Yeah,
I remember that.
That was like the highlight was that they brought them in.
Yeah,
I think Seamus was for the wrestler was one of the voices.
Yep.
But honestly, outside of that, there's really not a lot good. I agree. That was a tough one. But I actually have I can go back to my actual childhood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so when I was a kid, I always went to movies with my dad.
Right.
I still do as an adult. I just love hanging out with my dad anyway, so we can go to movies together.
Same here, yeah.
But when I was a kid, my mother would always have like bridal showers and baby showers and shit like that to go to. So my dad would have to drive her to these things. Mm-hmm. So we would drop her off at whatever thing she had to go to, and then we'd go see a movie. Mm-hmm. And it was just the thing that we did, and two stick out.
Right.
They were terrible movies.
Right.
And one of them was the Matthew Broderick Godzilla.
Oh.
Which is tough to even call Godzilla.
Was that 98, 97, somewhere around there?
It was like mid to late 90s, yeah.
Right.
And we saw this in a theater that I am fairly certain that there might have been rats watching the movie with us. It was the dirtiest, grossest, just not a great theater at all, right? It was horrifying.
Right.
And we were like, oh my God, this movie better be good because if it's not, like, look where we're sitting.
Yeah.
The movie is just god-awful. And we're going to do a Godzilla episode, so I'll save my comments on the movie itself for that. But it's an awful movie to watch. And it was just the most ridiculously terrible movie theater. It was like...
Right, it was like a combo. Yeah. Bad movie, bad place.
Theater, bad everything. But it was still a good time because I was with my dad. We made the best of it, and we were able to laugh about it now. And then a second time, the same sort of a scenario. We dropped my mother off somewhere, and we went to see... I don't know if you remember this movie, Piranha 3D.
Yeah!
And this theater we went to was in, I want to say it was like Port Washington or something
Right.
like that, like a ritzy area.
Mm-hmm.
The theater had like a chandelier. It was immaculate.
Whoa.
We're like, this is a nice theater.
Right.
And we go to watch this movie. And I mean, there's a lot to laugh at. It's almost you're laughing at how bad it is.
Right.
But you have a good time watching it. And we just looked at each other at this movie like, this movie is really a piece of shit. But it's so funny.
Right.
Like, they make fun of, I forget it. I think it might have been Jerry O'Connell, who is basically the dude who used to be, not by name, but you can tell it's based on the guy who made those videos from the 90s where, like, there were hot chicks naked on a boat.
Yeah. Oh, like Girls Gone Wild?
Girls Gone Wild. That's exactly what it is. It was like, he was that kind of a character.
Okay.
And Doc Brown's in it.
Wow.
Yeah, Christopher Lloyd is in it.
Wow. I didn't.
But it's just awful. And then there's one scene in this movie. And again, don't forget, this is when 3D movies were like kind of a thing.
Yep.
And everyone was trying to use cheap 3D effects.
Yep.
And we're watching the movie. The guy falls in the water. He gets attacked by piranhas, right?
Right.
So now his body parts are floating in the movie in 3D, so you could reach out and grab it if you wanted. All of a sudden, you see this guy's pichadillo is floating.
Wow.
There. You see his junk, and there's just like a wiener just floating in the water. And then here comes a piranha.
No way.
Wow. Like Pac-Man eats it and then swims away. The movie's awful, but it was shit like that. It was so funny. And we're in this theater that's got like I said, chandeliers everywhere. And like just an immaculate looking place. And they're showing a movie here.
Right.
With the dude's wiener getting eaten by a fish in 3D. Hysterical.
Right.
But yeah, those were just two bad movies. But you're able to laugh at how bad they are now. But yeah, the childhood memory. I used to go to see movies with my dad a lot, and two of them. I mean, we saw a lot of good ones too.
Right.
But two of them stuck out as some of the worst we've seen.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Man, those are good. I think for PJ, as we go along, as we take turns naming our worst movies, I know for me, I don't want to say I had like rules, but like, I didn't pick anything super low budget. Like people are gonna be like, oh, one of the worst movies is like The Room or like Trolls 2. For me, it's like that movie has. There's no expectations for it. That's a low budget, like a bunch of friends made it together. I don't expect it. I'm talking about like big budget films that have legit directors, actors, and these are horrendous.
I did the same thing.
So
I did the same thing. I'm not gonna pick Toxic Avenger.
Right.
Like
exactly.
we know that movie was made for $15. Like what are we doing? But no, I picked big budget movies. You know what? On my list, a lot of them are comic book movies.
Yeah. Me too.
And franchise movies.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I agree. I wasn't gonna pick these low budget. Like, what do you expect?
Mm-hmm.
You're not watching that movie. Like a lot of those like horror movies that are kind of crappy. Like, what are we doing? I'm not picking that. Obviously, that's it's for a niche audience. So yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So Peter, if you don't mind, I'll start off with this. So this came out in 1996. I actually didn't see this one in the theaters, but I remember my dad rented it from like Blockbuster, and I remember like just watching this at home. Like, this movie sucks. It's actually a sequel. PJ, it's Speed 2.
Oh, that's terrible.
With Sandra Bullock. Dude, this movie is horrendous.
Awful.
Keanu Reeves is not in it.
Which is the minute you know he's not in it, you're already knowing it's not going to be good. But you could not have anticipated how bad.
So I couldn't remember. Honestly, I couldn't remember the plot. I just remember it being awful, and it takes place on a boat. On a boat, basically like a cruise ship.
I can't remember who's the main guy in that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was like somewhat of a unknown guy. You know.
Is he playing the same character as Keanu, or
no? He's a different guy. I know that. I looked it up.
So she just gets stuck again in a situation where something can't slow down.
Right, and I think that's like in the trailer. She says like, "Oh my God, it's happening again." You know, so and I understand why she signed on. You know, that was a big hit. She wants to follow up on that. I get that. But anyway,
paycheck.
Exactly.
Pay the bills.
So this just to give you the premise of the film. They're on this cruise ship. I'm not sure if she's dating this guy. Maybe she is. I guess so. But what happens is a computer hacker, right? That was a big thing in the 90s, right? Everything's computer hacked. They computer hacked the cruise ship, and they're going to have it collide into another tanker, right? I guess it has explosives in it. I don't know, maybe a military thing. So the boat is going out of control. A cruise ship is going so fast. And it's just total, and it's called Speed 2 Cruise Control.
Terrible. The name alone, awful.
I mean, it is a bad movie, man. Everything. Yeah. And PJ, just a quick question. Do you like Sandra Bullock as an actress? Do you think she's good?
I don't dislike Sandy Bullock.
I think she's a very beautiful woman.
Yeah. I don't think she's a terrible actress.
I think when she's good, when her acting is good, I think it just depends on the film too. But sometimes, like, woo.
Look, I don't turn off Miss Congeniality.
Oh, I like that movie.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I think there are plenty of movies that she's a really a good actress in.
Yeah.
The football movie. That she was in.
This Blind Side, is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought that was pretty good. I think she's a pretty good actress. I don't have any issues with her. And I think she's super hot.
Yeah.
She's aging well.
Yes, I think she actually does a good job acting in it. I just hate when she screams. Did you ever see Gravity?
Yeah.
Woo, her like moaning and screaming in that film.
I don't think that's the right role for her.
Right.
I really don't.
Yeah.
I think she could be a really good serious actress if she took those roles up more often.
Yep.
And I think she could be a very good comedic actress too. I think she has range.
For sure. So yeah, PJ, that was mine from 1996.
I didn't write down the years.
Speed 2, Cruise Control, more like shit control.
Yeah.
But that was my first pick.
All right. Mine, I'm going to save my more controversial till the end.
Yeah.
So the first one that I pick here is a twofer because it's a franchise that took a shit.
Mm-hmm.
Jaws 3D and Jaws 4.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I love, as we all love, the first Jaws.
Oh, yeah.
It's a masterpiece.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I tolerate Jaws 2 the way we all tolerate Jaws 2. And we're like, all right, it's fine.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But then they came out with Jaws 3D. Do you remember Jaws 3D?
I saw it as a kid, but like, when they had those marathons like on TNT or something, but I have no memory of...
So Jaws 3D, the plot of the movie is Brody's son works at SeaWorld.
Wow.
He works in Orlando, Florida, the SeaWorld, the real one.
Right.
And there's a shark that just goes a little crazy and it starts attacking he gets into like, I don't know, I haven't seen it in forever, but he gets to a point where he can like eat the people on like the lazy river.
What?
It's just so stupid. I mean, and now he's like in the aquarium and he's trying to break through and he's like crashing into the aquarium trying to break the glass. It's so awful.
Wow, I have no memory of that.
Oh, it's awful.
I had no clue that took place basically in an amusement park.
Yeah.
Or,
it's filled with cheesy effects. Like, it's just...
I'm sure.
And this was at the 80s.
Yeah.
And this is why they make fun of it in Back to the Future.
Right.
Because they just keep pumping out shitty 3D Jaws movies.
Right.
The acting is awful. The effects are terrible. The plot is so dumb. A killer shark loose in an amusement park is the dumbest thing. Like, that's like Sharknado levels of bad.
Right.
I mean, it just shit.
Wow, I'm just astonished by the plot.
Oh, it's awful.
Wow.
It's awful. There's nothing.
I didn't realize SeaWorld goes back that far.
Yeah, it does. It's been around, yeah.
Damn.
There's absolutely nothing redeeming about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so bad, in fact, that when they come out with Jaws 4, which is my next movie on the list, that's why I said it's a twofer.
Right.
The Revenge, they don't reference it.
Right.
So Brody's son is still in it.
Yeah.
But they don't ever mention that he worked at SeaWorld.
Right.
They give him like a completely different job.
Right.
He's like some other marine researcher or whatever. He doesn't manage an amusement park. They don't mention the amusement park.
Right.
It's like it never happened.
Right.
That's how bad Jaws 3D is. But then they go to Jaws 4, and the plot of this movie is so dumb.
Right.
Do you know anything about sharks?
Oh yeah, yes.
You know things about sharks. Mm-hmm. Do you, in your professional opinion, knowing things about sharks, believe that a family of sharks could have a personal vendetta against a family of humans?
Right.
Because that's the plot of the movie.
They're like this family of sharks has like maybe their little cave underwater.
Yeah, and
they have like a picture frame of
Chief Brody, and they're like,
we gotta get this guy.
We gotta get Brody. And then so Brody's dead in this movie, and it's his wife, and she feels that the shark comes back, and she's like, these sharks have a vendetta against us, and that's why the tagline is this time it's personal.
Wow.
It's Jaws 4 the Revenge. This time it's personal because she believes the sharks are going after her family.
Wow.
And then she starts having flashbacks, like PTSD flashbacks, to things from the first movie that she wasn't a part of.
Wow.
Well, like, how would you ever remember this? You weren't there for any of it. You weren't on the boat.
Right.
When they're like throwing tanks at the shark. You're not there for it. What are you doing?
Right.
How do you have a flashback about this? It's awful. And what's even worse about it is they get good acting. Michael Caine's in that movie.
I was just about to say that. I know he's in one of the Jawses. I
He's
know.
in that
Wow.
one. Michael Caine shows up in that movie. In one scene, he's in water. Like, he's in, like, I guess
Right.
the ocean or some shit.
You're right.
And then the next scene, like, they get him out of the water, and he's just completely dry.
Right.
I'm like, there's no continuity from scene to scene. There's no continuity from movie to movie. Again, cheesy effects. An awful premise. The shark wants to take revenge on Brody's family.
Awful.
It's awful. It's a piece of shit.
Wow.
The
It's
two-
absolutely.
The two of them combined are maybe two of the biggest pieces of shit, and it's a good thing it didn't ruin the legacy, right?
Right.
Like, they're
Oh, yeah.
that bad. It could have ruined the Jaws legacy,
Right.
and luckily people just don't talk about them, and they still
Right.
keep the first one in such high reverence. But man, those movies are pieces of shit.
Right. I saw an interview with Michael Caine about that. How he said, like, he needed money.
Right.
Like, you gotta remember, actors also do this for, it's a job for them.
Yeah.
And he's like, I go through the script because I see locations. Okay, at the beach, Miami, whatever it was.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, I'll do it. I'm just curious. Because I know the first one, obviously, the shark Jaws, he dies via tank.
they blow him up.
Second one, he gets the electricity, right? Electrocuted.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how? I'm just curious. Do you know how
I don't remember. I don't think he died in the third one. I think he just
swam away?
swam away. Yeah, I don't even.
Don't even kill him.
Yeah, they just gets. Then he comes back in the fourth. It's personal, I guess.
Right. Has like a scar. In his
Yeah,
face.
I think it does. I'm not even kidding. I think it does in the fourth one.
Wow.
I think. And they're like,
He's like
and I
missing
think,
a tooth. He's like,
and I think that's how they're like, this is the same family of sharks. It's
Right.
It's so bad.
Wow.
Yeah, piece
Damn.
of shit. And to get an actor like Michael Caine in that, I mean, you can't
Right.
make that up. He should do better. But yeah, I guess for him, it's a
Yeah.
paycheck and you get to hang out on the beach. And then if she thinks that it's personal, that like sharks
Right.
are out to get her, why do you still live at the beach?
Right.
Move to like
The desert.
there's no sharks in Kansas. Maybe you wanna move away from the sharks. I mean, the shark's not gonna come get you if you're surrounded by land. Maybe
Right.
get away from the water if it's personal.
Right.
It's terrible.
Wow.
Awful. All right, that was my first pick.
Well, speaking of families, PJ, this has some family members in it. This came out in 2013. I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it at home. This movie is so boring and so dumb. I just kept watching because I was just astonished by it. This is After Earth with Will Smith.
Oh yeah, that's the one with him and his stupid kid.
Yep.
Okay.
That stupid one. Yeah. Him and Jaden. This movie is like, I think M. Night Shyamalan made this movie. I'm
Of
pretty
course.
sure.
Was there a twist?
I think I don't know. I think the twist is that no one has any, like, I think the thing is, like, you can't have emotions in the movie, like, somehow, like, they're from another, it takes, like, obviously it's after Earth, so I guess
Right.
we have a nuclear holocaust or something like that.
Are they the only two people in that movie or something like that? Or I might be thinking of a different one with them.
I know this Pursuit of Happiness, which I think is
Yeah,
an
I don't know,
overrated
yeah.
movie. But yeah, I think this movie is just horrendous. Anything,
Well, anything Will Smith is.
I don't, look, I was a fan of Will Smith back in the 90s. I like Fresh Prince,
Everyone
I like
does.
Bad Boys, I
Yeah.
like Men in Black, I like the Independence Day. And I feel like, look, I understand a lot of actors, they want to get taken more seriously, so they'll do, like, more dramatic roles. But I don't know how that guy won an Oscar. I haven't seen the movie King Richard,
I haven't seen it either.
but I don't know how that guy, I think he's a terrible dramatic actor.
Because
But-
I don't find him believable in the
Yeah.
roles. I don't.
Yeah,
either.
you ever see him like in that's another thing. I don't think it's a good movie at all either. I think it's called Ali, Muhammad Ali.
I haven't seen that.
He's awful as Muhammad Ali. He's
And
awful.
I didn't see the Concussion movie either, but I wanted to watch the Concussion. I forget what it's called, but I wanted to
I think
watch
it's called
it.
Concussion.
Is
Yeah,
that what it is?
Yeah.
Because I was interested in the story until I saw the trailer with him in it. I'm like, I'm never watching it. I just
Yeah.
gonna be disappointed.
Yeah. But this movie is just terrible, and like, there's a point where like, I don't know. He's like his name. Oh, all the names are dumb. It's like his name is like, this is Captain Cypher Rage. Like just like so sci-fi like.
Ugh.
Like, I mean, this movie is unbearable to watch. I mean, you could like just die of just like the cheesiness, and like his son has to fight these monsters, and the premise sounds kind of good. Like they go to it's
Right.
Earth, almost like a Planet of the Apes kind of thing. But it is just or I don't know what else to even talk about. It is just horrendous. Don't even bother watching it. And I just think, just piling on Will Smith. Like I said, I think he has just more bad movies than he has good ones. I
Yeah,
think his heyday was in the 90s.
And then he just should have just kept making those movies. He could have been a halfway decent action movie guy.
Yeah.
And that would have been fine. It's when he started taking. He's only been in one dramatic role that I kind of liked.
Right.
7 Pounds, I think it was called.
Oh yeah, all right.
I thought-
that movie wasn't bad.
I
I'll
thought
give you
that was the only dramatic role that he was in that I liked. I thought that whole King Richard movie was the dumbest idea.
I
for
never
a movie.
saw it.
I
want to
saw
see
it.
just because he won an Oscar. I saw clips. I don't know if I think he deserves
It's
it.
about
but-
Serena and Venus.
That's their
Williams.
father. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you have two of the most influential
Yeah.
women athletes, African American black athletes of
Yep.
all time, right? And they just you know what we should do? We should just make a movie about their father real quick and ignore
They're
them.
yeah. Right.
I don't give a fuck about their father. Let me see them.
Yeah.
I didn't see the movie. Maybe they're in it a lot. I don't know.
Right.
But I had no
Exactly.
interest. I thought the premise was dumb.
Mm-hmm. So PJ, yeah, that was my number. That's my second pick.
All right.
After Earth.
I have another terrible movie. This is my first comic book movie of the batch. Catwoman with Halle Berry.
Yep, that's on my
It's bad. It's bad. First of all, as a comic book guy, I like when my comic book movies feel like the comic books.
Yeah.
This has no connection to the comic book.
Yep.
At all. She's not Selena Kyle. That's for sure. It has nothing to do with Batman.
Yep.
So right off the bat,
Right.
it's terrible. Forgettable performances.
Oh, yeah.
The acting is
I think
horrendous.
Sharon Stone's in that.
Yeah, she is, but terrible. And they're both great actresses, honestly. But
Yeah.
in this movie, the plot is so stupid. I can't.
Right.
They get powers something because of ancient Egypt.
Right,
and
right,
they
right.
get the powers of the cat, and
Right.
she becomes Catwoman.
All I remember was the trailers. She was like, I think this, if my memory is right, it's like, I am Catwoman, hear me roar. Oh my God.
Awful.
I guess the idea was look, she's a hot woman. She's in leather. All this other
That's
kind
exactly.
of stuff.
That was what I put as my positive for this movie is that she's smoke show.
Yep.
And that outfit they put her in.
Yeah. Doesn't at one point she maybe I'm getting mixed up maybe with a different comic movie. Did she play basketball or something like that?
I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe.
I know.
She's
Maybe I'm
just-
getting mixed up with Daredevil because I think Ben Affleck plays Jennifer Aniston.
And they're in the basketball court.
Right. But I think she does that too. But I do remember in Catwoman at the end she fights Sharon Stone.
Yes.
And I think Sharon Stone is she's in this whole black outfit, and then
Right.
Sharon Stone's just in a regular business
suit.
and she's
It's
just wearing
stupid.
she just uses her own nails.
Yeah. And she shows up in this dominatrix Catwoman costume.
Yes, exactly.
It doesn't make any
Exactly.
sense. The editing of that movie, there's
Yikes.
There's jump cuts. It's like watching a music video and not a movie for that. It's a real piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
The lame plot, terrible acting, like I said. Halle Berry got a Razzie for this movie, and she called the movie in her acceptance speech. She showed up. I believe, to
Wow.
accept
Oh, that's
her
the one
Razzie,
she right.
and she said the movie was god awful.
Right.
So she even knows she
Right.
put and that's another one. She's a great actress. She's been in a lot of really good movies. Certainly, like I said, she's good to look at on the screen.
Yeah.
There's no complaints about her looks, her acting. But she's been in some real stinkers, and this was probably her worst movie of all.
Do you know when that movie came out?
Was I think the early 2000s or late 90s.
Because I would say that if my memory is correct, I think she won a Razzie at the same year she won an Oscar for Monsters Ball. I think she might have won. I think that was a thing. I could be wrong, or maybe the year after.
Yeah, but they were close together, I think.
Yep.
She's been in a lot of. She was great as a Bond girl. She was.
Oh yeah.
She was good in that.
Die Another Day. I do like that film.
Yeah.
A lot.
I liked her in Swordfish.
I love that movie.
I think that movie's great.
That movie's totally underrated.
Absolutely.
Actually, oh my God, I can't believe because I want to talk about that movie and hopefully in a future episode about action movies that are just kind
I
of
think that's a great movie.
Definitely
and I
recommend
thought she
it.
was really good in that. But this movie, piece of shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, PJ, I'm channeling as well. 2001. This movie, I remember just being very disappointed in it. It was Freddy Got Fingered with Tom Green.
Yes, I wanted to think it was. I wanted it to be funny. I wanted to like it.
Not funny at all. It's completely just. It's annoying actually to watch.
Yeah.
It's totally unpleasant. And I think Tom Green is a genius. I think he's really he was ahead of his time.
He really was ahead of his time.
Because he came from cable access.
Yep.
And MTV gave him but he's like the original I don't know if you want to call it a YouTuber or some of those pranks he used to do on the Tom Green show. I thought were hilarious. One of my favorites.
I used to love his show on MTV.
Yeah, one of my favorite pranks I just thought was genius was he would go to New York City or wherever he was. I think he's from Canada, whatever. He went to this city and he had a piece of dog shit.
I was going to say, put the shit on the
and
microphone.
he interviews people.
Yeah.
That stuff was amazing. And then one
funny.
time he goes to a soccer game. He's playing Spanish, but he's trying to steal the ball. But he was I feel like ahead of his time. And I like that movie. I'm like, I knew it was gonna have some. He was gonna do some kind of acting in it. But
Yeah.
I remember just being so disappointed. I'm like, no. And I just really, that movie's unbearable to watch. It is
Whatever happened to
unbearable.
him? Does
I
he
think
do
that
anything
mov-
anymore, or did that just
What?
kill his career?
I think that didn't help him. But I do like. I think he had like a cameo in Charlie's Angels. He was like the. Well, he was dating Halle Berry. Not Halle Berry. Oh my God, Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
He was married to her. But he has a small role in that, and I do like him in the movie Stealing Harvard.
Yeah,
With,
yeah.
Brody from I can't think of his name. Jason
Lee. Yeah.
But I do like that movie Stealing Harvard. But yeah, I think he just kind of fell out, And
That's a shame.
that movie didn't help him though, for sure. That definitely didn't help his career because if that was like a good decent hit, yeah, he probably still been getting some side roles. But yeah, Freddie got fingered. Woof. He definitely fingered himself.
Yeah. All right, let's see. All right, we did Catwoman, we did Jaws. All right. We spoke about this movie once before.
Right.
But I'm going to talk about it again. I don't know, this might be my I don't know if this is like controversial or not,
Right.
but I will say The Last Jedi.
Oh yeah.
Fuck this movie
Right.
to the moon and back twice. I hate it. I hate everything about The Last Jedi. And let me tell you why. First of all, if you really want to know why, go
Right.
listen to our Star Wars episodes. I'll tell you all the reasons why. But just to recap real quick why this
Right.
movie is a piece of trash.
Right.
First of all, you're part 2 of a trilogy, right? If we just consider 7, 8, and 9 its own trilogy, you're part 8 of 9 movies.
Right, right.
And you're part 2 of its own trilogy, right? So there's a lot of story that you have to incorporate because guess what, asshole?
Right.
You're not in charge of Star Wars. You're
Right.
making a small piece
Right,
of Star Wars. So let's not go out on a tangent and do our own shit now, okay? J.J. Abrams set things up for this trilogy
Right.
in that first movie. And then it's not a Star Wars episode, so I'm not going to go into everything. And then Rian Johnson takes a shit on everything that was set up in that first movie, throws it away, and goes off and does his own thing and ruins the entire trilogy because now they can't follow through on anything that was set up.
Right.
You basically made the first part of this 3 movies irrelevant.
Right.
So you just know where you can go.
I think I said this on our Star Wars episode, and check it out, folks, if because we actually rank them at the end.
Yeah.
After we review each film, and then at the end we rank
Rank
them from worst to best. But I think what Disney should have done with that film is just have have Rian Johnson just make the third one. Like, look, we had to finish the storyline because they end up, and Last Jedi was actually on my list. I didn't want to go totally deep into it, so my lightning round, but
Okay.
Last Jedi is one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
It's awful.
They should have just let
He should
Rian Johnson
at
just
this point finish it.
Just finish it because
Because
I think
by-
it would have been
yeah.
better than that.
Because at least there would have been some continuity between the 2 movies.
Exactly.
But instead, what they did is they made all of the movies so disjointed. The writing is terrible. There's character assassination in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because Luke Skywalker, who we've known since the 70s, he's not new,
right.
is established as a character that doesn't believe in the old Jedi way because he does rely on his personal connections to the other characters, and he does believe...
It's a mess.
Yeah,
It's a mess.
And so they set this character up in a way where you know who he is already, and you ignore it, and you don't explain why, other than to say he loses hope that he can save the galaxy. He is the hope.
Right.
He's a new hope. That's who he is. And then he says hope's not a real thing, and they get rid of it. And then the ending fight in that movie is a fucking projection. It's
Yeah.
fucking Tupac hologram fighting
Right.
Sith. Get out of here. It's terrible. I hate it. I hate that movie. And so, like I said, fuck that movie to the moon and back twice. I think it is one of the worst movies I've ever seen and one of the worst movies of all time. And I hope it goes down in history as one of the... And as this is coming from a huge Star Wars fan,
Yeah.
I think that movie should go down as the worst movie of all time.
Oh, yeah.
I hate it.
PJ, I kind of want to do a little bit of actually going with some franchise films. That's okay.
Okay.
I'm just going to go 3 off the bat. So this is one of the worst movies I ever saw in theaters. It's actually The Suicide Squad, the first one.
Oh, the first one.
The
Okay.
first one, I said Will Smith's in it. Jared Leto was on. I think he's unbearable as a Joker. I think it's the worst Joker of all time. One of the worst. Nothing about that. The Joker's supposed to be intimidating. That's probably the least intimidating. And him to go off again. You think you have Ben Affleck's Batman.
who I think is generally a very good Batman.
I'm like, that's the guy. That's it. That's
Right.
the guy. Like, that movie is just. I remember watching that movie in the theaters. And I was saying to myself, I can't believe just the editing feels like a music video. They were trying to bite off the Guardians of the Galaxy with the music. What an awful movie. I mean, the second one. They basically
I like the second one. The second
one's a great movie.
Yeah. The first one leaves a lot to be desired.
Cringe. There's one point when I remember just dying. I think we talked about this one of our recent past episodes where like I'm a type of person when I feel cringe, like I feel like I'm gonna die. I feel like I could die for like embarrassment for someone else.
Right.
And there's a point. I don't know what she's like. I forgot the name of the villain. She's like a goddess or something like
the
voodoo
the Enchantress.
God. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a point where she's like dancing or something.
Oh, it's just like,
and she's like, oh my.
It almost looks like a really shitty CGI version,
yes.
like a hula girl.
Yeah,
that
that
we
was
put on
weird.
Top of your
Yeah,
sword.
I mean,
it's terrible.
Man, and at one point, Harley Quinn's like, don't you hurt my friends. I'm like, what? Like, anyway, awful movie. Another awful movie, another in a part of a franchise, is Fantastic Beasts 2, The Crimes of Grindelwald. Now, I like the first. That's from the Harry Potter series. I do like the.
I'm trying to remember which one the second one was.
This is when you find the backstory of I can't remember the guy who plays the Flash now. Like Ezra Miller.
Right.
You find out his backstory. And awful. I remember watching this movie with with my now wife. I remember just saying like I can't wait till this movie's over. It's confusing. It's boring. And nothing ruins a whole vibe, like kind of like Star Wars, where they're like, "What are you doing?" And all I can blame is J.K. Rowling because I know she wrote the books, but she never actually wrote the movie. Someone else adapted them, and that's the first time she wrote for a film. And that movie is a disaster. And it's like I think you got to know your place. Write the story, have someone else convert it for film. But it is bad writing, bad. Everything's bad.
So the first Fantastic Beasts is probably my favorite movie in the Harry Potter franchise.
Really?
Because I
know you're not into fantasy to begin with.
I'm not, right. But this one had a bunch of animals, and I like animals.
Right.
Real or fake, who cares? That little Niffler guy is
yeah.
And the little tree guy or whatever.
Yeah, like a little grasshopper dude.
Yeah,
like
that
a
guy.
walking stick bug. Yep.
Yeah, that guy. I like those guys. I like the Muggle guy.
Yes.
I like him. He's a great actor. I think he's the best part in all of those.
He
movies.
works. I think what doesn't make the Fantastic Beasts not work is you don't have to all these franchises. You don't have to have everything connect with each other. You should just make it about him. Be like Indiana Jones. He's just going around finding animals.
It didn't have to connect back to Hogwarts and all
exactly
the other
or Harry Potter.
It could have just been a wizard.
Because it makes you complicating it. You didn't have to do that. It would have been better if it was its own thing.
And I can't figure out the timelines of these Harry Potter movies because they introduced Dumbledore in these movies.
Yeah.
But when we first meet Dumbledore, he's old as fuck.
Yeah.
How far? What's the span of time between these two movies?
Yeah.
Is it like 1,000 years? Is it like 10 years? Like what is it?
I think the movie takes place like in the 40s, and I know Harry Potter he takes place in the 90s. So I guess he's maybe in his 80s or 90s at that point.
I can't figure out because if that movie takes place in the 40s,
right?
When we meet Dumbledore, he's in his 40s.
What in the
Fantastic Beasts?
Oh,
Isn't he like in his 40s?
Yeah, 30s to 40s. Yeah.
Right. So if that movie's taking place, let's call it World War II, and this dude's 40,
right?
He should be 90 in the first one. Like, I guess.
Like I said, they didn't have to connect them. It wasn't really necessary.
I don't think they needed to connect them. I agree. I think that kind of takes me out of it. It didn't help that they kept changing the actor for that.
I don't think Johnny Depp was a good choice to begin with. I like Johnny Depp. I do.
Yeah.
I know he's getting like that whole thing. I never heard all that, but.
But didn't he start off? But he was like, there's like 4 actors playing that part.
But I like that. They should have had that guy from Mads Mikkelsen.
He was great. Yeah.
He should have been from the beginning. Yeah, because.
But they did that bait and switch. Wasn't he like Colin Farrell or something like that? And then all of a sudden at the end,
I don't like that. It didn't have, like I said, that's what hurts that film. They didn't have to do because you could actually almost eliminate that whole thing. But and my other franchise things I want to get in there real quick, PJ is, I hate this movie. I love the first one. Another one, Pirates of the Caribbean 2. Okay. Dead Man's Chest. I hate this film. I remember seeing this there. I thought it was boring. I thought it was confusing. I'm like, why are you overcomplicating?
I think they should have ended that franchise at the first one. And I think it's one of those movies that stays a classic forever. I think
first one's awesome.
Yeah, I think unlike Jaws, how 2, 3, and 4 luckily didn't ruin the legacy of the first one.
Yeah.
I think each time they come up with another Pirates movie, it ruins
Yeah.
the legacy of the first one.
Yeah, and the like I said, and there's things I do like about too. I like Davy Jones. He's an awesome villain. You know, I like how those movies are filmed. And Gore Verbinski makes those films. They look beautiful, but the storyline is just stupid. Stop overcomplicating these stories. It's based off of an amusement park ride.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, and I think another thing that kind of it sounds weird, but you think about the first Pirates of the Caribbean, Jack Sparrow, Johnny Depp's character. He's not the main character.
No, he's not.
Orlando Bloom is, and
supposed
Kate.
to be.
What's the other girl's name?
Kate Beckinsale. Is it her?
No. Keira Knightley.
Keira Knightley.
They're really the main, and he was a side character. Then they make, which I get, because he was a breakout star. He becomes the main character. Okay,
Right.
fine, but it just gets too complicated. Like really, and there's a part they're playing like I don't know, they're playing tic tac toe or dice
Right.
game. Like I'm like, what does this have to do with anything?
Yeah,
It's
Jack Sparrow is. It kind of is in a similar way to Star Wars. How Luke Skywalker was supposed to be the main guy,
Yeah.
but everyone gravitates towards Han Solo because he's way more awesome.
Yeah.
That's what happened in the pirate movies, and now Orlando Bloom was supposed to be the main character, but everyone gravitates towards Jack Sparrow.
Yeah.
The difference is with something like Star Wars, they don't make it about Han in the next 12
Yeah.
movies. It's still about Luke.
Yeah.
And the Skywalkers. In that movie, they were like, well, fuck Orlando Bloom then. This
Yeah.
is now the Johnny Depp show.
Yeah.
And he's great in that role. I think it's maybe his most defining role.
Oh yeah.
And he's fantastic in
And
it.
he was nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah,
you know?
and well deserved.
Yeah.
I think he does a great job in that movie, but he never needed to be the main star. It's a
Right.
bit much to take in
Yeah.
when he's the main guy.
Right. Yeah. And it gets anyway after that, like you said, after each movie after that became
It's just
more
and more
too
unneeded.
long.
Yeah.
Too. They're like the movie's like 2.5 hours long. And PJ, if you don't mind, one more
Sure.
franchise one. I saw this movie with my dad too.
Okay.
2019 Captain Marvel. What about Captain Piece of Shit?
Captain Piece of Shit.
This
I agree.
movie is. All these movies have one thing in common to talk about is cringe. This movie makes me. I've ever watched
It's
this
awful.
movie. I was like, my skin was crawling between like, just. I think. Look, she won an Oscar. That what's her name? Brie
Brie
Larson.
Larson.
Yeah, she won an Oscar for Room, which is a great movie. But I don't know if it's just, I guess it's part director's fault, but like she's like her character goes from like very like punky to like very like stoic, and also
Yeah.
think you can't show everything's like you can't show your emotions. When you can't show your emotions, it doesn't hurt. It hurts a film.
Yeah.
You want people to emote. That's what makes it interesting. You know, or if they're a villain, they're a psychopath. You know what I
Right.
mean? Their lack of emotion makes them terrifying. You can't have your hero like that. But the tone is all over the place. I mean, I love Jude Law, poor guy. He probably needed a paycheck, probably needed to pay for a mansion or
Yeah.
something. But man,
Rent was due.
yeah, exactly.
You know,
Awful movie. Awful
the thing
movie.
about that movie, from as a comic book guy, right? So I go back to that. Is she's not the first Captain Marvel, right? And there's like a length of time in the
Right.
comics that builds to her eventually becoming Captain Marvel,
Yeah,
right? And there's the original guy, and then who dies, and then his son, and then that guy stops being the character, and like there's this progression. And she's a completely different character that eventually builds her way up from Ms. Marvel to
yes,
the Captain Marvel. And look, maybe those characters aren't relevant so much anymore, those older ones, and that's fine. But you can't. You're starting in the middle of a story, and
Right.
so look, I'm not trying to knock the Hollywood writers. There are some really great ones out there, but when you make a comic book movie, you know, as good as the writer you hire for the movie is, you're still basing it on something that already exists. And when you
Right.
change it too much, it doesn't work because the history is not there. So now you're inventing a new character as you go.
yeah,
And it doesn't work all the time. You know, like you're not Stan Lee. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah,
Stan
yeah.
Lee's inventing Spider-Man. Can you imagine if they made a Spider-Man movie that had nothing to do
Right.
with what Stan Lee came up with originally? You'd be like, this
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. And I think that movie suffers from that. And the other thing that movie suffers from is also just lack of continuity between the rest of the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
It feels so disconnected. And I understand it's set in a different time.
Yeah.
It's the 90s and the rest of them take place in the current day. But in the Marvel movies, like there's a whole big thing when they ask Fury, like, how'd you lose your eye? He's like, I trusted somebody I shouldn't,
right.
motherfucker. Right?
Right,
And
right,
then
right.
it's a cat.
I know.
And you're
I
like,
know. I know. Ruined it.
Yeah, like
Ruined it.
there's no
All for a
content-
joke. All
for a joke. Right. A joke that falls flat.
Yes.
So it's not even like, at least if it would have landed, you'd say, yeah, I agree, not the best one. I still haven't seen the sequel.
Don't it? I
Maybe when
seen
it's
it.
on Disney Plus and I can watch it.
I think also what this movie represents too, it's like I really don't. There's so many Marvel movies, but I feel it was the beginning of like they just started just do like paint by numbers. Like
Yep.
it has everything. It has like okay, you got the good-looking hero. Forgettable. They always have forgettable villains,
right.
really. Besides Thanos, really.
Yeah.
Forgettable villain. I remember one of the parts that was making my skin crawl. Too many undercutting with the jokes, blah 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 blah. But just like, I think we gotta blame Guardians of the Galaxy. And obviously that movie's awesome. The first one. I haven't seen the sequels, but they took the whole thing about like the comedy and the music.
And they made that all of the movies?
Yes. And there's a part of the movie where Captain Marvel, she has to fight the main villain. I think it's like a woman. I forgot who she's actually good. Was it Sissy? Is it Sissy Spacek?
I don't remember. Yeah.
Anyway, she fights her like, I don't know, some other dimension. I don't know. And they play Come As You Are, like the beginning of Nirvana. Obviously, I love the music.
Well, it's because it's the 90s.
Right.
And all,
But I just felt so out of place. And I'm like, this doesn't work.
Right.
This song doesn't work.
Yeah.
Any song wouldn't work. Like, why don't you just have, Alan Silvestri write something? Exactly.
Yeah.
This just does. It just felt so forced. And there's one part, talking about forced, towards the end. They never address this in the movie. Only towards the end, it's like her being a woman.
Right.
She never stood up for herself about being a woman. That wasn't the issue. The issue was that they said, whatever aliens you were living with, they said you can't show emotions. Because that hurts Japan or whatever it does. So at the end, they do this montage, bro. I remember laughing in the theater because it's like she never stood up for herself. I don't know, but it's all these things where like she's like strikes out.
Right. Yeah.
She like wins like a go-kart race, and she's just standing up. I'm like, oh my god! Right now, my skin's crawling. Right now, thinking about it. My eyes almost rolled out of my head. It felt so forced, and it's like that whole thing. The message. I was just like, my god, what are we doing here, man? But yeah, talk about that movie is the definition of forgettable. I mean, I just remember some scenes, but
it's not good.
It's only memorable for the bad, that's for sure.
So what's interesting with my next two picks, we're gonna have to change the name of this episode,
right?
I think to just like worst comic book movies,
because
unfortunately so many of them are bad. So I have two more on my list.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was Wonder Woman 1984.
Right.
Have you seen that?
Yes, I have.
It's awful. The acting is awful. The storyline is so stupid. They get Pedro Pascal as Max Lord, and he gets a rock, a wishing rock.
Right.
And then
right.
He gets the wishing, and then if you wish on the rock, your wishes come true. And the more wishes he gives you, the more power he gets or some shit.
Yeah.
And then there's a part in that movie. There's a few things I'm going to talk about in this movie, but one, they what's her face from Saturday Night Live?
Oh,
the villain.
Kristen Wiig.
Kristen Wiig, yeah. She wishes to be the most vicious animal.
Predator.
Predator.
Yeah. An apex predator.
An apex predator.
Right.
She's a fucking cheetah. I don't think. If I had to fight a real cheetah, I would lose. I'm not.
Right.
If I'm racing a cheetah, the cheetah's going to win the race. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
An apex predator. I just think there are probably a lot of animals.
Right.
That should we put them in a cage match?
Yeah.
The cheetah's not winning.
Right.
A giant grizzly bear, my money's on the bear. Sorry. A lion, my money's on the lion. A tiger.
Right.
It's a movie about fantasy where a rock can make you anything you want.
Yeah.
And you ask to be an apex predator. Nothing of this is based in reality.
Right.
Why is she not a dinosaur?
Right, I was about to say.
It
should be like a T-Rex.
Yeah. But she's a cat.
Right.
A fucking mountain lion. It doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrible. Wonder Woman, I like Gal Gadot, but she's awful in this movie. And the plot of the movie, too, it's just like she wants, Steve Trevor to come back.
Yeah, that was a bad idea.
But he doesn't. She just looks at another guy and thinks he's Steve Trevor now.
Yeah.
And that poor guy's mind is taken over.
Yeah.
And
I think what hurts that film, too, especially with that part, was with Chris Pine, that I think you cheapened his death.
Yeah.
From the first one. That was a big deal. When I saw that movie, I was like, oh, wow, that was good.
Yeah, it was great. The first
one, I
love the first
if
one.
anything, have her, help her move on from that. Maybe she could be still grieving in some way, and she meets someone else. I don't know. I think one of the dumbest things in that movie is actually right in the beginning. I think it's almost like two opening.
When they're in the mall?
Yes! The mall!
It's so stupid.
There's a point, I think it's at the end of this action sequence where, I think she saves a little girl, and she, the girl, drags it across the ground.
She does that in every movie.
And she, I don't know. Goes
She
against-
slides like on her whatever.
Oh my god!
But the ending of that movie,
Yeah.
the Hallmark Christmas movie ending of that movie when they're by the Christmas tree and she sees the guy in the distance whose body Steve Trevor took over or whatever,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, it's so cringy. It's just awful. But here's the one I think is a little controversial because I think a lot of people like this movie and they suck this movie's dick.
Right.
And they probably shouldn't. I hate this movie. It's one of my least favorite Marvel movies.
Right.
Wakanda Forever.
I never saw it.
People love Wakanda Forever in a big way. I don't.
I think it's forgotten. Did that come out this year?
It came out. I want to say maybe during the pandemic or right before it? Maybe
This is when
after he's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that came out this year. Did it come out this year?
Maybe was it? I don't know.
My god!
Yeah, I
Maybe
don't remember.
2022.
Maybe
then?
2022.
Jeez. Okay.
So I honestly find it to be incredibly boring. I there are stretches of that movie, and I'm talking long stretches of that movie. That's nothing but exposition.
Oof.
When you're like,
that's rough.
Yeah, you're like, oh my god, because now
Right.
you're introducing all these new characters. They introduced the villain, who's villain in quotes, because I don't know if you want to call Namor a villain. In the comics, he's right. But they give him like a 45-minute long like explanation of who he is, but it's so uninteresting.
Right.
And you're like, oh my god, nothing is happening in this movie. And then interspersed with his 45-minute origin, they introduce Ironheart, and she's like supposed to. She was at one point getting her own Disney Plus show. You know how like when the TV show does like a backdoor pilot, and it's like an episode of another show, and they spin it off. That's what this was supposed to be for her. So now you're wasting another 30 minutes introducing her as like this really smart teenage engineer who's going to be the new Iron Man.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my god, I don't give a fuck.
Right.
I don't give a shit about this Namor origin. Now you're also making it a eulogy for Chadwick Boseman.
Right.
And you're like, just please give me a fight between a hero and a villain.
Right.
There's all you're doing is talking. Nothing's happening in this movie. I think there's some real good acting in it. I think what's her face, the Queen Ramonda. I can't,
Right.
Angela Bassett.
Yeah.
She's great.
I think we said this, and I don't know which episode we talked about it. But they should have just replaced.
They should have just got.
That's just that's not. You're not disrespecting him or anything like that.
Right.
I think if anything, he would have
said, keep it going.
We said this too. They're gonna reboot it. You're gonna recast him.
Exactly.
You should have just done it.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
This is not the first and last time we're ever gonna see a Black Panther at this point.
Yep.
They could have just put someone else in that suit.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Just do it. I understand it was new and raw for everyone, and he was the Black Panther. He's not. He's a guy. He's an actor.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you could replace, obviously he didn't die. If you could replace Michael Keaton as Batman, you could replace Chadwick as
all
Black
these Jokers,
Panther.
Jack Nicholson. Heath
I
Ledger,
mean, I get it. Those actors they didn't pass away, but they're still iconic in that role, and you had no problem replacing them.
Right.
You could replace Black Panther.
Exactly.
And another thing about that movie is I think it goes out of its way to purposely not call the underwater like city Atlantis.
Oh, right.
Because Aquaman got to it first, and they were like, well, we can't call it Atlantis now. Aquaman's already in Atlantis. Stop it. It's Atlantis. Don't come up with fake names and new things.
Right.
It's just like...
Right.
It's stupid. And it's like, it takes you out of it because they give it some... whatever name they give it, and you're just like, what? It's the underworld city of what?
Right.
What is it? It's Atlantis. Oh, no, Aquaman's from Atlanta. We can't call... We're not dumb.
Right.
Don't talk down to us like we're going to get confused.
Right.
We know it's not the Aquaman movie. We know Momoa's not showing up. You can call it Atlantis.
Right.
Don't insult us. It feels almost insulting in a way.
Yeah.
I think it's so overrated because people don't want to... They've convinced themselves it's good because they don't want to shit on Chadwick. And he's like, it's bad is bad. I'm sorry. And then they make his sister the new Black Panther. It should have been what's her
his
face?
Bodyguard.
It should have been the Bodyguard. That's what we all wanted.
Yeah, Michonne. I forgot the actress's name. Yeah, that was a good pick, PJ. I never seen it. I just know about it. But,
I don't like it at all.
But PJ, I'm gonna switch gears. I know we're kind of getting close. I want to go to a lightning round and then do my little questionnaire. But I want to talk about these 3 films real quick.
Okay.
This one is from 2002. I'll talk about another cringe fest. Folks, if you want to make your skin crawl and also at the same time laugh your ass off, watch Enough with Jennifer Lopez. I don't like her.
I don't like her as an actor ever
At all. And this movie just gave this quick synopsis. She gets a divorce or whatever. She has an estranged husband, and that husband, I'm not making fun of this part. I guess he's domestic violence. Everything would hit her. But the part that's so goofy is she trains to be like an MMA fighter, and then at the end she fights him.
Oh my God!
Like she like fights him in her house. She like boxes him. She does like all these like put him in a headlock, an armbar. It's so crazy. It's so cheesy. Oh my God!
There's another movie with her that is pretty awful. I can't think of the name of it, but she's like moves into this house or whatever, and there's like a teenager that lives next door, and I can't think of the name of it. And I mean, she's smoke showing it.
Yeah, I think she fools around with him, right?
Yeah, it's like it's just such a weird, crazy movie.
Yeah.
She's not. I don't think she's a great actress. I think she's super hot.
Yeah,
that's her. That's her claim to fame.
She's a performer. That she just stick to that. My other movie I want to talk about that I saw this in theaters too. I don't know how this even won an Oscar for the girl and the actress won it. The remake of West Side Story by Spielberg.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
What? First of all, why are we remaking classics? Stop doing that.
Right.
All I can say is it was just. It didn't need to be remade.
No.
And
no one was asking for that.
And it was so cheesy. They put a lot of political. Look, I'm not against putting politics, but it feels so forced.
Yep.
And like just ungenuine. And I want to tell them, like, especially with all like the political stuff, like maybe you should make West Side Story maybe take place like maybe modern day, or maybe not in that same time period. Maybe take place in the 80s. You know, might be different. But anyway, the girl who plays, I think Rosa or Rosie, whatever. You know, the girl won an Oscar. I don't know how she won an Oscar. Not because I think she did a bad job. I don't think she deserved to win an Oscar.
Right.
You know, but that movie I thought was horrendous. That's the thing about Spielberg. He can make amazing films, no doubt. Some of the best movies of all time.
Yeah.
But when he makes shit, he makes shit.
shit.
Yeah, I mean that movie. I hate the movie Hook. Look, I love Robin Williams, but that movie's a piece
Hook?
that movie's a piece of shit.
You
PJ.
have no soul.
PJ, that movie's boring. It's boring.
No, it's amazing.
Robin Williams was awesome. I like.
I love that movie.
You know, Dustin Hoffman and you know the acting is all that's fine, but it's not that good.
I love that movie from start to finish.
Oh my God, PJ.
I can rewatch that movie over and over and not get tired of it.
Mm-hmm. And my two other ones I really want to just kind of quickly focus on is oh my God, where's my notes? Oh, this movie's awful too. 2004's Taxi with Queen Latifah and Jimmy Fallon.
Oh my God, I never saw it, but I don't need to even see it to know how bad it is.
Oh my God, you want to get into a car accident? It's that bad. It's just. I don't know what else to even say. It's astonishing how bad it is. That's all I can say.
I've never seen it.
I don't know. That's another thing, real quick. I'm sure she's a very nice woman, Queen Latifah. I used to like her on remember the TV show Living Single? Yes.
Yeah.
Why are they giving her action movies? She does like the Equalizer now. Like, who can take this seriously? But anyway, she plays a cab driver who's like, I guess she's just. I saw her. I don't know why. Oh, I know why I watched it. I'll tell you this shortly. She's like a cab driver. I think she has like a high tech cab. You know, when she presses a button, kind of like a Knight Rider thing. And then Jimmy Fallon's like a cop who's like a dweeb cop. But in the movie, they're trying to catch these bank robbers, and they're all supermodels. It's all like Giselle and all those smoke. They're all like the elite Victoria's Secret models of like the early 2000s. That whole, they had that whole knockout crew. I'm sure they still have gorgeous women now, but
they're not like
those are the ones.
Names.
Angelina Lima, all those, the ones that really define. We think of Victoria's Secret angels, but awful movie, awful. And the other one that's awful, PJ, I want to just talk to you about, lastly, is The Scorpion King. I don't know why The Rock keeps getting movies. That movie was awful.
I know you don't like The Rock.
I don't like him as an actor, and I don't really like him as a person. Look, I don't know him personally, obviously, but he always comes off very, like, just fake. Very fake. I feel like he almost has a chip on his shoulder for some reason.
I still...
But he's very fake.
I love The Rock. His movies...
Great. I loved him as a wrestler. That was awesome.
The wrestler was great. I like him as a personality. I think he's got a lot of charisma.
He does, but it's all fabricated charisma. Well, it's fake. It's not like Arnold Schwarzenegger or other act like or Keanu Reeves. That's just kind of natural.
Right.
He seems like he's always playing. Like he's
always playing a part.
He's never really himself. You know,
but
I don't know his true self.
I enjoy him. Although, did you see the thing this week about him? He put up a post that it was like the first time he ever went to In-N-Out Burger.
Oh my God! I saw that.
And then like everyone started screenshotting the other 12 times he said
went to
it was the first time he went to In-N-Out Burger, and that just kind of shows your point. It's always a little bit of an act.
Yeah, he was on Joe Rogan too, and even that interview was just
Yeah.
flat. I mean, he told a good story about how he became, I guess, The Rock, how he became that character. But I don't know. He just seems very fake to me. And you heard about I apologize for cutting you off. But, you heard about that thing, right? I heard certain actors he, and I guess in his movies he can't lose and he can't get beaten in the movie
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah you can't play a villain it's always dude, who gives a shit?
I think
was that real life?
I think he's a good action guy. I mean, he can do the stunts. He looks believable in the roles. I mean, he's not winning an Oscar or anything like that. I think for an action star, I think he's still pretty good. I enjoy
I don't know, PJ.
I don't dislike him as much as you do. I know you don't like The Rock.
I think if I had to give him any kind of, he's not going to take my advice, but I want to tell him all your movies are not that good. Bottom line, I mean, even I think Jumanji's a fun movie, and CIA or something like Central Intelligence, those are fun. But I think those other movies, but there's other people in the movie who elevate it. He's not elevating it. The other people are. Kevin Hart
liked him a lot in The Jungle Cruise. I liked that movie. I don't know if you saw it. I liked it. I had such a fun time watching it.
That movie's
I liked
dumb.
it.
That movie's. I love Emily Blunt. That movie was dumb.
I liked it. I had a good time watching it. I wasn't expecting a masterpiece, but I liked it.
What he needs to do, and I guarantee he's going to do it eventually one day, it will put him on make him a true superstar as an actor if he plays a villain.
He needs to be like a Terminator.
He has never played a villain.
That kind of role.
He played the Scorpion. That doesn't really count. I've been talking about the Mummy too.
Right.
But he had no lines. But when he made the Scorpion King, he was a good guy.
Yeah. No,
he has to be The Rock, his character from wrestling, as a villain.
I think he would be great
if he did
in
that,
a Terminator role, just a big ass-kicking bad guy.
He needs to be a bad guy.
I think he would.
Because all the Fast and Furious, he's indifferent. You know? He's not good or bad, and that doesn't work.
All right. Now, I know that you had posed a question.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You had posed a question about a remake to me, so I was prepared with an answer.
Right. So we said the question I asked guys in advance was, okay, name a movie, and we don't have to get super in-depth, but that you think, name a bad, basically, like I said before, West Side Story. Why are we remaking classics? Why don't we remake movies that are bad that have some kind of, potential to them?
Right.
So, PJ, what did you have? I have a couple.
I picked one. I picked one, and I don't have a lot of thought behind it, but I picked. It's actually a movie that's already been remade once before. Oh. So if you remember The Absent-Minded Professor, that was remade as Flubber with Robin Williams.
Okay.
So the main plot of the movie is he's a mad scientist or whatever, and his personal life suffers because he's absent-minded and he's always thinking about his work or whatever else, and it becomes a cheesy comedy. It's not Robin Williams' best work.
Right.
But I was thinking, take a movie like that, but don't make it a comedy.
Right.
And I think, you take Flubber, you have this guy who's a scientist, and it could be like a psychological thriller.
Right.
That's also a social commentary on Big Pharma.
Yeah.
You have this guy that's absent-minded, and he doesn't realize his work in, science that he thinks is being used to help humanity, cures, whatever else, medicine, drugs, is being twisted around by Big Pharma and actually hurting people. You can take the idea of that movie and twist it into something a little darker, a little more of a commentary, a little more of a psychological thriller. Everyone, when they remake these movies, they always tend to stick to the original genre. Yeah. But take a movie, if you're going to redo it,
that's a good idea.
Just flip it completely. So that was my thought.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I have some quick ones. I think you should turn this into a television series, live action. Is Dragon Ball. The movie was awful.
The movie's terrible.
Awful. One of the worst. But yeah, Dragon Ball Z. I think you could do that. Do some nice practical effects, some makeup, make it simple. Do a nice little series. On Netflix, I can see it. And you keep the tone because Dragon Ball is kind of somewhat. It is comedy in there.
Right.
So that I said. But movies, I think they should remake. I do love this as a guilty pleasure. I know it's not. I don't think it's horrendous. It's Congo, actually.
Congo.
I like that movie, but I think you can redo that. You can make that into a good horror film.
Yeah.
They've made the original more of an adventure, Indiana Jones kind of thing. But if you make it true horror, it would work. And my other one, I really think this movie. It's not a bad movie. It's okay. It's actually from the 80s. I don't know what year it came out. But you ever heard of it? It's called Brewster's Millions.
I've heard the name. I have no idea what it's about, but I know the name.
I'm pretty sure Richard Pryor's in it. Basically, the premise is he's this guy. He's down on his luck or whatever like that, and his character's African American. This is where the comedy comes in.
Right.
He gets called in. Somehow he's connected to this rich white bazillionaire.
Right.
And he goes, "You're getting inheriting all my millions. But here's the catch. In order to get the full billion, you have to spend so much. You have to spend like 10 million in order to get the 100 million.
Okay.
And the twist is you can't tell people this happened to you. You can't tell them you inherit this. This is the scheme that you have to spend so much to get the full shebang. And you can't like completely donate it.
Okay.
And you have to buy assets. So I can't buy like 20 cars.
Right.
You would have to buy, like run a store, things like that.
Okay.
So in the movie, he keeps trying to, buy things and he buys like paintings and he resells them.
Right.
It's always fun. He hires a security team. He's like, "Hey, you want a job? Okay, you're part of my." So the whole movie, he keeps hiring like people to redecorate his home.
Right.
So every time he comes, he's like, "Do it more." And I think Rick Moranis is in it too for a second, and John Candy I think is in it.
Right.
And anyway, like at one point he's like, "Oh, I made you more money. Like, oh, I invested your money into stocks." He's like, "I made you an extra $1 million." He's like, "Oh, why would you do that?" So like, we don't know that.
Right.
But the movie at the end gets a little flat. He actually becomes a politician at the end, and it's funny because I guess I'm spoiling the jokes here. He goes like, his campaign is called "Don't Vote for Me," because he's just doing it to spend money because it's. And he ends up actually winning. So the movie's actually, I said, it's not a terrible film, but it's okay. If you watch it, you'll know what I mean. It's just flat. But I feel like if you get someone like a Kevin Hart or even like a Dave Chappelle or any actor, it would be really funny. And I think it'd be a hit because it's kind of like I said, it's an okay film that has its moments, but it's flat. But that's a movie that you could really make a lot of money.
Sounds like it might be an excellent vehicle for The Rock.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But guys, that's about it, right, PJ?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many more bad movies that
And we'll talk about them in future
in the
episodes
future.
for sure.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But yeah, guys, that's the deal. Same time, same table.
Make good choices.
Boys and girls, lunchtime is over. Please visit PJ and Mike's website, coolkidslunchtable.podbean.com for more information. Follow the boys on all social media apps. Just search Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast. Now get to class before you get detention.